Inspired talks of Swami Vivekananda, Pranam Mantra. Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suray Satchit Sukhaswarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. We are on August 5th, 1895. It was actually the second last day of Swamiji's stay at Thousand Island Parks. And as you might have noted by now, what a treasure house he has given us during these 6 weeks of stay. And for me, of course, it's massive, just profound. Swamiji is profound. You pick up his words from anywhere and it's profound, but when it comes to Inspire Talks, it's too profound. Previous day we had just mentioned, and Swamiji talks about education in general and about how he looks at evolution and how Vedanta looks at evolution. And he had very beautifully put things together that think of all the advancement in every field of knowledge, say through the last 2000, 3000 years ago, or maybe more. And today's kid masters it within a few years. Shows how powerful the brain has become. However, in case of Vedanta, it's not only mastering the past. Sorry, it's mastering the future too. You get a complete picture. Usually, when we call somebody educated, we mean to say that the area in which that person has been educated, whatever that field be, he has a complete picture of the past. So for example, a professor of physics, he may not be knowing the history, but he knows the entire history of physics. When it comes to Vedanta, when it comes to spiritual realization, you not only know the past, you know the present, and you also know the future. Now, Swamiji explains why. Swamiji gives a very simple reason for that. To understand all this, and to correlate, I request you to listen to our Raj Yoga talks in English or maybe in Bengali, whatever language you are comfortable in. And he says, time is merely the measures of our thoughts. Now, what is time? Many philosophers and many scientists have given very serious thought over the problem. If you go by the standards of physics, they will say that time is the measure of events. There are two events and you compare it with something else. For example, there's a pendulum. Pendulum swings. You compare some other event with the motion of that pendulum and you say that so much of time has elapsed. Say, for example, pendulum makes a complete swing. And we are taking one of those pendulums that take 1 second. Earlier, that's how pendulums were made. And there was very simple physics behind the whole thing. Essentially, the time period, we are using all these expressions, time period, etc., but actually it's an event. Pendulum swings from one end to the other and comes back to its original position, and we say it's 1 second. And supposing I've been waiting for you, I just count the number of swings and compare my waiting, that is, which is an event, with the event that has been taking place outside, which is measured. Sorry, how it is measured? By the motion of earth, by the motion of moon, by the motion of sun, etc. And you know how when earth makes a complete circle round its axis, you call it a day and night. And it moves around the sun, you call it a year. And similarly, other planets are moving, galaxies are moving, and light has a speed. So scientists have different units of time, but in all these cases, event, particular event, and best thing is movement of say pendulum. But is it really that? What about the internal sense of time or inner sense of time? It depends entirely on your thought process. Say, for example, when you are engaged, think of this way: you are waiting for a friend, and your friend is late, and suppose it's a very important meeting. You are continuously looking at the watch. You are saying, "Oh my God, so much of time has." Now, when you think that so much of time has passed, you look. You look at your watch and you find that no, actually, it's barely a minute or two. And the person who has been running, he's not aware of time. And consequently, when 10 minutes have passed, he thinks barely 2 minutes have passed because he's in such a rush. He's not able to watch his events, so engaged. And so when you are engrossed in some really good work, as they call engrossing work, you lose the sense of time. Because as if a part of your mind keeps on looking at the events that will compare your inner time with the external. I mean, if you think over it, you'll, you'll see that it's a beautiful subject. And there was Henry Bergson. He had mentioned about inner time, and in recent times we also have Stephen Hawking who talks a lot about time moving in one direction, etc., etc. But for us to understand what Swamiji is saying, we need one very simple thing, and that is, as Swamiji says, measure of our thoughts. That's the inner one. Measure of events. That's the external one. And when they are synchronized, we live only in present. And when they are not synchronized, what happens? You lose sense of time. You start living in a different sphere of existence. Say, when you are engrossed watching some television program, you, sorry, you are engrossed in some extremely good work, or you are into painting, music, etc. What happens? You lose your connect with the external world. To bring you back to this external world, you need to make a check and realign your inner timing with the external. It is done even by the spiritual persons. However, instead of being engrossed with the physical things as we usually are, they're totally immersed in spiritual thoughts. So much so that the thought process itself stops. I mentioned Raj Yoga there. Second sutra, that is sutra where it begins. Chitta vritti nirodh, when all your thoughts stop, when your thoughts cease to move, time stops. Otherwise, your mind is one with your thoughts. You are what? You are your thoughts. You and your thoughts, you are same. We often think of ourselves as this body with this mind, etc. But actually, we are our thoughts. Our body is also a thought. Our mind is also a thought. What is the unusual thing about this thought? That first thing is, it completely binds us down. Thoughts completely bind us down. It forces us to live in the present. And yet, it has the tremendous power of racing like anything. The only comparison can be racing like thought. Because in this world, nothing can move faster than thought. Speed of light is nothing. Speed of light is nothing compared to the speed of thought. But this speed of thought, even though it seems infinite, is actually limited. It's actually limited. Sitting here, you can think of yourself being in London and America, etc. But even that has limit. And what is that limit? Physical universe, time. These are the limits. The speed of thoughts cannot be as infinite as the presence of Atman. Those of you who have listened to our Ishopisha talks, etc., there, this has been mentioned, and Upanishads maintain it beautifully that mind can travel very fast, very, very fast. But Atman is faster because Atman is present everywhere. Mind can travel very fast. It can go anywhere, but you'll find that Atman is already there. So Swamiji says that, and thought being inconceivably swift, there is no limit to the speed with which we can live the life ahead. Swamiji is linking. That means, one of my friends, while listening to the talk, this previous talk commented, it's all absurd. How can somebody live? How can somebody live the future? Spiritually itself is absurd, counterintuitive. It doesn't seem to fit our reasons. Because we are used to this world. We are used to the extreme slow motion of this physical universe. We are not even conscious of the tremendous speed of thoughts. We can't even live at those places. And that's why most people prefer not to think, because the mind will go wrong for them. You need to train yourself to live in the world of ideas, to live with thoughts. And they're so swift. They're so swift. So if you really want to live with your thoughts, first is you have to unbound it. You have to allow your thoughts to move to the past and also to the future. And because you and your thoughts are same, you can live your future too, as you can live your past. I'm not sure if I'm able to convey the idea. I'm trying to put it in very simple words. Although we think ourselves to be this body and this mind, and we feel that we have relatives, we have our own. That means we create a very small space in this world and think that we are this. We never stop to think that actually whatever we consider to be our own are mere thoughts. We are our thoughts. We are just our thoughts. We are nothing outside our thoughts. If you can somehow unbound that space, the limitation, now you're free to move, as scholars are free to move. For example, when Einstein went ahead with theory of relativity, he had unbounded his thoughts. A creative person. Now we have Rabindranath Tagore, such a great poet. He unbounded his thought process. Consequently, he could come up with such great poetry. In case of spirituality, you unbound the space and time in which you are living. It actually happens. Sri Ramakrishna at one place says, those of you who are interested in this, once I had done some work on milestones in spiritual life. And as far as research part is concerned, I completed it, but because of various reasons, I need to make a work out of it. It's available on archive.org. If you go to archive.org and look for milestones in spiritual life, or you simply type on Google milestones in spiritual life by Swami Samarpanananda, you'll find it. There's mentioned. You lose the sense of time. You also lose the time of space. As you lose the sense of time and space, actually shows that your meditation is becoming extremely intense. A time comes when your thought process stops, mind stops, time stops. And it's through this process that you can live your life ahead. So it cannot be stated how long it would take to live all future life. It all depends, depending on how intense your sadhana is. It might be in a second or it might take 50 lifetimes. Now, once the idea is clear, I think it depends on the intensity of the desire. Desire here means desire to live the future. We go to astrologers. We have our horoscopes checked, like how my future would be. But we never try to live our future here and now. The teaching must therefore be modified according to the needs of the taught. So now, from this point, Swamiji basically is telling that since a person can live future, in fact, every spiritual person lives future. This is another work which I have not yet completed. Maybe I wish to complete someday. It's about empires of mind. And conclusion of that work is when you die, depending on the kind of thoughts you have, the kind of noble actions that you have performed, and knowledge, spiritual knowledge that you have acquired, you will go to that sphere. And that's how our ancient sages used to say that if you have spiritual knowledge and if you have done noble acts, you will go to higher heavens. If you have not done any of these, you'll just die and be born again like corns, like wheat and barley. Kathopanishad, we have this series of talks on YouTube. Sasyamiva martya pachyate, sasyamiva jayate punaha. When you meditate, when you go deeper in meditation to meditation, what happens? You can visit the spheres, planes of existence, where you will go after death. So, what is God realization? God realization means that during meditation, you will be able to see your Easter, God, because that is where you will go after death. What is the highest that you perceive in your meditation? What's the highest that you have perceived during meditation? Just know that that is where you will go after death. Well, you might ask me, what's my authority? Well, my authority is what I have gathered from all the books now, till date, and what I have understood. And I know I'm not wrong. When somebody goes into nirvikalpa samadhi, that is chitta vritti nirodha, where mind stops completely, you experience the state of non-duality where you will go once you are physically dead. Actually, there is no difference between this conscious world where you can reach through your meditation, and the world where you will go after death. They are one and the same. What about billions of people? They say that 7 billion people in on this present, on say today, there are 7 billion people. What about them? Nothing. Ask them to meditate and see what they experience, what they think about, how far they can go in during their meditation in the thought process. Exactly there they will be after death. And the answer is very clear. You don't have to go to an astrologer to know what your future is. You know where you will go. Because when you sit for meditation, you'll think of your worries. You will think of your loved ones. You'll think of your whatever. And at times you will also think of your Easter, God. That means once you are gone, physically gone, your next sphere of existence will be a combination of all these. Your loved ones with little sprinkling of God. But that is, we are talking only about the thought process. Deeper one is when you actually have realizations of those states. That means you have spiritual visions of gods and goddesses. You have spiritual vision of whatever your Easter. For example, supposing there is a Muslim person meditating in whatever way, say on the name of Allah. And whatever realization that person gets, that's where that person will go, he or she. Same with a Jew, same with a Christian. There is no exception to this. There can never be any exception to this. The place where you will go after your death can be experienced here and now during your meditation. And the highest that you can meditate upon, the highest realization that you have during meditation, that is where you will go after death. There is no difference between the internal and the external. Well, this is something I know to be true. Although I have not read it anywhere, I know it to be true. I am just giving you a break of a minute just to, in case you have any question, because it's, I think slightly complicated what we discussed. Anyone? Any question? based on what exactly, based strictly on what we were discussing. Mr. Sanjeev Sinhaji, if there is no question, I'll proceed. What we discussed was slightly difficult, slightly a bit subtle. Or anyone else? There is no comment. Anyway, and in fact, whatever we have been discussing, there's a deep correlation of all this with dreams. Think of your dreams. What happens? You move through your various planes of existence, and the kind of dreams you have overall. I mean, I'm talking about straight dreams. While dreams give you the indication of your situation, how you are placed, and what your aspirations are. Dreams also indicate where you might be going after death. Number one. Number two, you lose the sense of time during dream. Now, if you can lose the sense of time during dream, there is no reason why you should be losing the sense of time during your waking state. And there is no reason why time shouldn't stop completely during meditation. Actually, this is what happens. Indeed, this happens. Now, because different people will move differently on this path. So you cannot say that everyone will have this realization in a day or in a minute or in one lifetime. Swami says it may take, actually, Rajyoga itself mentions it. Depending on how intense your practices are, how intense your desires are, progress will be like that. Either it will be intense or slow. And hence, you must have a storehouse, a super store of truth from where a person can pick whatever one wants, depending on what exactly you want from life, depending on what exactly you want from God, depending on what exactly you want from spirituality. You will pick those truths and move ahead. And that's why Hinduism is a very special, very, very special religion. Why? Because it offers you so many options. There are ready-made coats and there are tailor-made coats. Hindu religion is like tailor-made coat. One person comes and he or she says, well, these are my requirements. Okay, fine. Here you go. But other religions have limitations. And obviously, because if they don't have limitations, they will not be those religions. The consuming fire is ready for all. Even water and chunks of ice quickly consume. Fire a mass of birdshot, one at least will strike. So when you shoot, particularly during this bird shooting, game shooting they call, they generally use these slugs. And when those bullets are fired, lots of pellets come out. And one of them is sure to hit a bird. And even one small pellet is enough. Give a man a whole museum of truths. Actually, Swami uses the word museum. And because during Swamiji's time, the idea of superstore, etc., was not there. And that's why he uses museum. Museum where everything is kept. Everything from the past is kept. And actually, every religion is just a museum of its spiritual truths. No religion can say that I contain the future of spiritual truths. Because in most religions, new spiritual truths are not permitted. You are not allowed to, supposing there is Christianity. Or somebody comes up and says that, well, this is the spiritual truth I have discovered. he will not be he will not be permitted to speak out his realization, truth, whatever you say. They will just not be permitted. No. But we don't have this problem in Hindu religion. And Hindus recognize spirituality intuitively. A person go on beating his drum that he is so great, this, that, etc. And we have so many Babas all over the country. You go to any village and you will hear that there is a local Babaji and people follow them, etc., etc. That doesn't make them spiritual masters, because if a person is a spiritual master, his truths will be known maybe after 100 years or so. So, and that's why Sri Ramakrishna didn't get recognition during his time. It takes time, because spiritual truths too require test of time. So no religion can say that. We also have a superstore of future spiritual truths. However, Hindu religion is most willing to accommodate the new truths, but that's not important here. Swamiji says museum of truths. Museum of truths means all that has been discovered in the past. And then, of course, I think difficult part is over now. We have only the simple things to say. Whole museum of truth, he will at once take what is suited to him. Past lives have molded our tendencies. Give to the thought in accordance with his tendency, because he same path is not suited for everyone. Well, for example, I myself, I'm a freedom loving person. I don't like dogmas. I don't like to be confined in any kind of thought system. Forget about emotional bondage. I can't even take the bondage of thoughts. And if I want to grow, that environment of freedom must be created for me. Similarly, you might be a highly ritualistic person. For example, here in India, we have certain sects of dualistic philosophies. They believe in rituals. They are extreme believers in rituals, and they feel that without rituals, religion has no meaning. Are they wrong? Not at all. Because rituals are concretized philosophy. Philosophy, when translated into action, becomes rituals. When Islam dictates its votaries that pray 5 times a day, basically it's minimum 5 times a day. It is that you should be worshipful throughout the day. You should worship your God all the time. Now it's concretized. It's made easier for people to grasp. And that's how rituals are born. So now you must have a religion that will allow rituals too, any kind of ritual. And must have a system. And a religion must have a system where a person will be allowed free flow of spiritual thoughts. And this is what Swamiji means by museum of truths. Intellectual, mystical, devotional, practical. Make one the basis, but teach the others with it. So whatever your philosophy, for example, we have these dualistic schools and they focus more on devotion. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't be talking about the intellectual aspect. They should. This is also truth, but we follow this. Actually, the very idea of Hindu religion is this, that, well, when we say that ekam sad vipra bodha vadanti, when Sri Ramakrishna said jato mat tato bhat, what Hindu religion means to say that, well, this is the superstore of religion. This is a superstore of spirituality, where every religion has a place, every spiritual thought has a place. But simply because you have entered a superstore doesn't mean that you are going to own the entire superstore. No. You will take what you need when you go to a shop. Forget Superstore. Even if you go to a shop, you don't go and order the entire shop. No, you don't. You take what you need. And if you go to one of those superstores, you go only to those shops that cater to your needs, to your tastes. If you might be living in a very big city, like we are here in Kolkata, of course, I don't eat outside. I don't even have any idea about what eating outside means. But for people, those who go once in a while to eat outside, where do you go? You go to a place that will cater to your tastes. You will avoid the area where your tastes are not properly met. Same with religion. A religion must have whole range of spiritual truths. Now you can say that, well, we have everything. You can practice whatever you want. I personally practice this. In case of Sri Ramakrishna, he had practiced everything, and that's how he said, as many faiths, so many paths. Intellects must be balanced with love, the mystical nature with reason, while practice must form part of every method. Swamiji talks about synthesis of yoga, Raj Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. All four must be there. Like if you have only devotion and the reasoning part is absent, you tend to get fanatic. And that's what you find all over the world. Most of these followers of different religions, they become fanatics. Take everyone where he stands and push him forward. Religious teaching must always be constructive, not destructive. Under no condition you should be destructive. No, no, no. The moment you are destructive, the moment you say that either my way or highway, is something seriously wrong either with your religion or with your understanding. It's not necessarily that your religion might be wrong. Like, for example, some religions are, or some thought process, they're continuously under attack these days. We are hearing a new expression in India. They call it Hindutva. Now, I really don't understand what is Hindutva and what is Hinduism because everything is one. And these are, clever tricks played by the intellectuals. Intelligent people, they believe in backseat driving. They will not come to the forefront because the moment they come to the forefront, they will be under attack. They just want to be behind the scene, behind the screen, and control from there. These are the people known as liberals. Come to the front, have intellectual argument, take charge of a country like communists. Those of you who are well aware of the history of communism, you will know that, uh, as my luck would have been, I lost lots of communist friends and relatives before I become a monk, and they always talked about unity and oneness and alleviation of poverty, etc. And whenever I pointed out certain flaws in implications, they would say that communism can never work in pockets. So I was very young in those days. Even those days, I used to say that you're not able to manage such a small country, and now you want to ruin the whole universe, or at least the whole world. So this word Hindutva, this coined by these liberals who want to stay behind the scene and yet control whatever is going forward. So they want to criticize Hindu religion because they feel that if Hindu religion comes to forefront, they will lose a lot because If you start really talking about Hindu religion, and that's why you'll find that some people even criticize Swami Vivekananda, because Swami Vivekananda really brought glamour to Hindu religion. And he didn't add glamour. Hindu religion is actually glamorous because it has place for everybody. You talk of democracy, England, France, America. These countries talked of democracy. They led on this path. And now so many countries of this world are following the path of democracy. But but Hindu religion, Hindu spirituality has practiced spiritual democracy for the last 10,000 years. It's nothing new for us. Ah, oh, it says that Bibhutos Babu, he is former professor of chemistry of top university. He says needs to listen many times. Do you? I don't know. Oh, I thought. I hope I'm not sounding irrational, but in the first half, it's not that difficult actually. The greatest quality of Hindu religion is that it is never destructive. Never. It welcomes all. It accommodates all. Swamiji then talks about, once you have talked about museum of truth, storehouse of truth, each tendency shows the life work of the past. If you just look at your tendencies, are you quarrelsome? Are you nagging types? Do you keep complaining? It only means that these qualities you didn't acquire in one life. You have been cultivating it birth after birth, birth after birth. Is the ultimate result of your struggle on those qualities for many lifetime. So if you're a scholarly person, you didn't get it in one lifetime. No, it's not that. Whatever tendency you have, if you have love for learning, you didn't get it in one day. If you have love for music, you didn't get it in one lifetime. The line or radius along which that must move. And that's why here in India we say that you can attain God through music, you can attain God through dancing. Can you think of any religion that will say this? Just name one religion that will say that you can attain God, you can attain salvation through music. But we say in India, you can. Through dance, yes. Through literature, yes. Already I lead to the center. Whatever your tendencies, the way you act, you just need to make it impersonal. In personalized form, it is you. In the impersonal form, it is God. As simple as that. And that's why every religion must have a museum of truths. Actually, you will see that in every religion there have been great scholars who write spiritual history of that religion. But when it comes to Hindu religion, it's too huge. For example, Mahabharata itself. Mahabharata itself is a storehouse of spiritual wisdom. So is Ramayana, so are Puranas. Just huge. Swamiji classifies them, categorizes them into four. Says that try to have all these four because that will help you better. Your growth will be better. and chances of you succeeding in this very life will become much better. Never even attempt to disturb anyone's tendencies. To that puts back both teacher and taught. This is the bane of the spiritual world. A teacher learns something and he thinks that his path is the only correct path. That's very unfortunate. When you teach Gyan, you must become a Gyani and stand mentally exactly where the taught stands. Similarly, in every other yoga, develop every faculty as if it were the only one possessed. This is the true secret of so called harmonious development. Harmonious development, like a good teacher. Those of you who have been with some great teachers, you know that a great teacher knows a lot. But when he is with the students, he brings himself down to the level of the students, and yet he keeps towering above, towering large. মিন্টু চক্রবর্তী সাধারণ কিছু কিছু প্রশ্নের উত্তর জানার জন্য উত্তর পাই না কেন? যখন ভাই আমরা যেটা করি তখন সেটা করি। হ্যাঁ, এখন এই সবারই একটা একটা করে যদি উত্তর দিতে থাকি, আমরা শাস্ত্র নিয়ে আর এগোতে পারবো না। ধৈর্য ধরে আপনি শুনুন, উত্তর টক্সগুলো মন দিয়ে শুনুন, you will get your answers. Harmonious development means this. You go to the level of the learner, and yet you maintain your individuality. Similarly, your natural tendencies may be through one particular path. That does not mean that you will criticize other paths and you will not take other paths along. Well, that's harmonious development. That is, get extensity with intensity, but not at its expense. Intensity should be there. At the same time, your spread should be there. We are infinite. There's no limitation in us. We can be as intense as the most devoted Mohammedan. Swamiji used to say that Mohammedans are extremely devoted, intense. But in the process of this intensity, they lose extensity. And as broad as the most roaring atheist. Now, Swamiji compares atheism on one side, and now, of course, there are people who say that X so and so and atheists. Atheists, like there was this great philosopher Voltaire, and he claimed himself to be an atheist. He was broad. And on the other hand, you have, for example, Vaishnavas also. They're extremely intense in their devotion. A harmonious development means you have both within your personality. We'll continue with this discussion. Thank you so much.